Most of us know the basic story. The JFK thing, I mean. Even those who weren't around then are at least familiar with the iconic images and the overarching narrative. And if it only comes from the various episodes of the mega-popular iconoclastic TV series The Simpsons, featuring the thing as part of its own plot, then that underscores the point further. Indeed, there are probably few other major events throughout the grand American narrative that have attracted the attention of the show's history-savvy writers. It's a touchstone of popular and political culture, and it's woven into the collective psychosocial fabric. On Friday, November 22nd, 1963, in crowded Dealey Plaza, Dallas, Texas, around 12:30 p.m., at least 3 rifle shots, possibly upwards of 6 or more, rang out in quick succession from at least 2, possibly even 3 different locations. At least 2 of the bullets from these shots hit the primary target, only one of which was needed to achieve the respective shooter's goal, and that was to bespatter the brains of the 35th President of the United States of America all over the upholstery of the open-topped, fully secured presidential limousine, and all over its shocked, shattered, shit-scared, terminally scarred occupants, the President's wife Jackie included, along with a few folk close by. If ever the world stopped turning and history ground to a halt, this was one of those days.
There has been an attempt, as perhaps you know now, on the life of President Kennedy. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown. We have not been told their...
The president was officially pronounced dead less than an hour later.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
He was 46 and had been in office for less than 3 years. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, or JFK, was a historical and political roadkill. Along with the Commander-in-Chief's brains, the torch had been blown out, the new generation holding it aloft, stopped in its tracks, numbed, incredulous, mortified. Whichever way one looks at it, the JFK thing was not one of America's finest hours. The United States of America was divided, fractured and splintered, seemingly beyond repair. A sense of anger, panic, grief, disillusionment, horror, disbelief, denial, shock, rage and monumental despair gripped the country and the rest of the world. As required by the US Constitution, within less than 2 hours of this official announcement, Lyndon Baines Johnson, or LBJ, the Vice President, was sworn in as the new President aboard Air Force One. For more reasons than the obvious, the US, and as it turned out, the rest of the world, would never be quite the same again. Or to put it another way, in some respects it would forever, to this day, stay much the same, seemingly rooted in that incongruous mix of emotions described earlier. Within hours, ex-Marine and presumptive wannabe Cuban revolutionary Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended.
Regarding the probable assassin, the sheriff's officers have taken a young man into custody at the scene, a man 25 years old. We are...
And later fingered as the one and only plotter and shooter. Within 2 days, he too ended up on the wrong side of the grass, shot down at point-blank range in public in front of hordes of Dallas police officers, G-men, and reporters by a low-flying mob acolyte, one Jack Ruby, purportedly a self-styled presidential avenger in the poorly secured basement of the Dallas police station. In the days between his arrest and death, Lee Harvey Oswald, looking mostly like a deer caught in the high beams of an out-of-control runaway 18-wheeler, repeatedly denied he'd shot anyone, much less the president.
resolution is slow. The murderer moves in, and here is the shame of all America as Jack Rubenstein takes the law unto himself. Dying
20th century history, as recorded in establishment textbooks and journals, is inaccurate. It is a history based solely upon those official documents which various administrations have seen fit to release for public consumption. But an accurate history requires access to all documents. As previously classified documents are acquired, a new version of history has emerged. The prevailing establishment version is seen to be not only inaccurate, but designed to hide a pervasive fabric of deceit and immoral conduct. The centre of political power is with an elected Congress and an elected President, working within the framework and under the constraints of a constitution as interpreted by an unbiased Supreme Court. We have in the past assumed that political power is consequently carefully exercised by the executive and legislative branch, after due deliberation and assessment of the wishes of the electorate. In fact, nothing could be further from this assumption. The electorate has long suspected, but now knows, that political promises are worth nothing. It is now 2013, the 50th anniversary of the assassination, and in the lead up to this event, many are anticipating a resurgence of conjecture, if not some convergence of opinion, or indeed, if not finally, an official determination as to who did the deed and why. Insofar as we can gather, the biggest question of all, though, is the one that probably has rarely been asked. How is it possible for arguably the most popular and the most hated president in modern American history, the country that purported to exemplify democracy, freedom, justice and truth, along with public transparency and accountability in a way that was unprecedented historically, to be brutally murdered in such a public and suspect fashion? And 50 years later, we're still arguing the toss over why this crime was committed, who was responsible, and why the real perpetrators, facilitators and sponsors were never held to account. And if Kennedy was that hated and vilified, defining motive, means and opportunity should have been a no-brainer. And if he was that loved and respected, what happened to the critical mass of public opinion in such a heightened atmosphere that one expects might have been forthcoming? In a country that so reveres its office of the head of state and usually accords its incumbent a high measure of respect, support and trust, this again points to a glaring disconnect in the way that Americans have dealt with the assassination. Given that the majority of Americans have consistently believed there was indeed a conspiracy, it begs another big history question. Why have they seemingly accepted this reality and allowed so much time to pass without demanding a whole new investigation into the hit? And is it possible then in this climate we might expect calls for a new investigation into the assassination, along with the release of hitherto under wraps documents, files, reports and witness testimony? Moreover, if this material is released, might we even expect from that development a whole new commission of inquiry? With all this in mind then, for the country that brought us that much sought after and often elusive postmodern state of mind, closure, can we now expect that soon America will be able to close the chapter on the JFK thing once and for all? Indeed, is it reasonable to expect something of a zeitgeist moment in the development of a clearer understanding and final resolution of this tragic, lamentable episode in the history and the life of this sometimes great nation?
The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.